Hello, friends, and welcome to the National Constitution Center. It is so meaningful to award the 2024 Liberty Medal to Ken Burns. Friends, let's begin, as always, by feeling the electricity of American history that unfolded on this sacred ground. Please gaze at the words of the First Amendment that are shining in front of you. And now, please turn your gaze to Independence Hall, where the Declaration and the Constitution were drafted. Think about the human stories that gave rise to the big ideas, the American ideas, reflected in those documents: liberty, equality, and democracy. For most Americans, the best way of learning about the human stories behind the American idea in the years leading up to America's 250th birthday will be Ken Burns's new series on the American Revolution. It's a riveting 12-part series. I've had the privilege of screening it. It brings to life stories of the Revolution as only Ken Burns can, by combining quotations from primary texts, personal narratives by revolutionary soldiers, Native Americans, and enslaved people, and commentary from leading historians, as well as unforgettable images. Like all of Ken's work, it teaches us that the fight for freedom is full of contingency and complexity, and always dependent on the courage, self-discipline, and virtuous choices of individuals. In college, I had a great English professor, Walter Jackson Bate. He was an inspiring humanist and a biographer of Samuel Johnson and John Keats. And Professor Bate pointed out that in every age, there's a different popular media technology that's the main platform for distributing great art, including the art of narrative storytelling about history. In the age of Shakespeare, it was the theater, and thousands flocked to the Globe to learn about Henry IV, V, and VI from Shakespeare's multi-part history plays. In the age of Dickens, it was the serialized novel, and thousands flocked to the docks of New York to get the latest installment of The Old Curiosity Shop and to find out what happened to Little Nell. In the age of Spielberg, it was the Hollywood movie, and millions turned to Schindler's List to understand the human tragedy of the Holocaust. Ever since the late 20th century, we've lived in the age of television, and millions turned to Ken Burns's documentaries to learn about the human triumphs and tragedies at the heart of American history. We are, in short, living in the age of Ken Burns. For Ken Burns, the story of America, like the story of each individual, is ultimately a spiritual quest to become more perfect. For the past few years, I've had the privilege of being part of an email list with Ken. Every morning, the folks on the list receive a snippet of wisdom from the great philosophers of history, compiled by Leo Tolstoy in his Calendar of Wisdom. Every day, Ken responds within minutes of receiving the daily selection. Let me share with you now some of the recent daily selections and Ken's responses over the past few days. September 20th, all good things can be achieved only with effort. That's from the Dhammapada. Ken's response: choose the path of most resistance. It is training for the most important work. Overcoming the idleness of ordinary existence, offering a chance to escape the specific gravity of that which keeps us down. Discipline and sacrifice are the virtues which allow conditions for real progress to occur. Take the stairs. September 21st. Work toward the purification of your thoughts. Without bad thoughts, you will be incapable of bad deeds. Confucius. Ken's response, again within minutes. Bad thoughts, the precursor of bad actions, are like flies around a horse's head. We need to learn the method whereby a shake of the head or a whisk of the tail, and they are dispersed. Rather than an automatic, mindless gesture, which the horse employs, we must cultivate an intentional action to dispel those thoughts which would, without this rigorous attention, take root. And just this morning, September 24th, the selection was Plutarch on vegetarianism. This is the selection, actually, that briefly inspired Ben Franklin to become a vegetarian until he smelled cod off the coast of Cape Cod, and he gave it up. But this is Plutarch. What nature or struggles for existence or kind of madness forces you to shed blood with your hands in order to eat animals? And Ken's response, again 10 minutes later at 6:33 a.m. this morning, reasonable people may disagree. Many Native American people used every part of the buffalo for their subsistence, material and nutritional, and in return for killing it, revered it, centering their spiritual rituals around the animal that sustained them, reciprocity incarnate. That represents only the past few days of the spiritual wisdom of this great prophet and great historian and great teacher. Imagine learning from Ken every day over the past few years. And as you can see, Ken's responses reflect his daily, hourly quest for self-discipline, self-government, and self-improvement. It's a quest he's on every day of the year after year, decade after decade, always striving to become deeper, wiser, more self-mastered, more empathetic, more tuned in, more present, more perfect. Like the great sages with whom he's in daily conversation, Ken recognizes that happiness is something to be pursued, but never finally or ultimately obtained. That's because the pursuit of happiness, as he puts it so perfectly, is a quest for lifelong learning, and every day is an opportunity to learn more. For Ken, the quest to become more perfect through lifelong learning is not only a personal quest, but a civic responsibility, a civic duty. That's the central lesson of all of his films. Unless citizens take the time to learn about history, we risk repeating its errors and losing our liberties to dictators or mobs. In telling the story of America through the personal stories of those who struggled to realize the American idea, he emphasizes the complexity of the daily quest for personal and political self-government. There are setbacks and there are failures and no guarantee of success. But in his unforgettable accounts of all the inflection points of American history, the American Revolution, Ben Franklin, the Civil War, the New Deal and the Roosevelts, LBJ and the Great Society, the arc of justice bends upward, and the quest to become more perfect continues. The National Constitution Center's sacred mission is to inspire Americans to learn about history so they can become more perfect and keep the Republic. In his life and in his work, Ken Burns, the storyteller of America, has done more to advance that mission than any other American. That's why it's such a tremendous and unique honor for the National Constitution Center to award the 2024 Liberty Medal to Ken Burns.